We begin an in-depth discussion on an issue making headlines. The COVID-19 pandemic has forced schools in South Korea and around the world to take their classrooms online. Both students and teachers are learning to make use of the various virtual tools and platforms as social distancing measures continue and school semesters continue to be postponed. South Korea is also preparing to begin online classes by distributing smart devices to middle and high school students who cannot afford them. But if remote teaching proves to be a success, experts say it could lead us into a whole new era of education beyond COVID-19. To discuss the future possibilities, we have joining us today Dr. Lee Joo, an economist and professor at KDI School of Public Policy and Management, who served as South Korea's Minister of Education, Science and Technology from 2010 to 2013. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Well, Dr. Lee, at this point, online learning seems to be the only option to maintain schooling, and schools everywhere are jumping into it, with some less prepared than others. Do you think that education authorities will continue extending the closure of schools throughout this year, not only in South Korea but around the world?
As you said, for the time being, online learning is the only option. However, online learning with cutting-edge edu-tech tools could be a much better option compared to the traditional learning in offline classroom, which has become rapidly antiquated and far outdated. Coronavirus pandemic has forced more than 0.5 billion students away from schools in over 165 countries. However, even before the pandemic, young people had suffered from global learning crisis due to the dysfunctional learning systems in classroom. According to the Education Commission, 825 million, roughly half of the young generation today, are expected to reach adulthood without the skills they need to thrive in labor market and society. So the surge in online learning spurred by the terrible pandemic might enable us to achieve blended learning opportunity for everyone, which has long been regarded as the most desirable alternative to the current failing learning model.
So what you're saying is that this surge of online education, it could actually be a positive development. You just mentioned blended learning.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Well, then how should the government support schools and teachers in this situation? Also, not all students have access to PCs or the internet, so how can we bridge this digital divide?
Yeah, an essential requirement for shifting from a physical classroom to online learning is good internet connection and access to digital devices at home. Korean government recently announced its plan to provide students from low-income households with 330,000 smart devices, as well as free data plans for the use of learning platform and digital content. But we also have to consider wide gap in preparedness for online learning of parents and students among different family backgrounds. Government should make it clear that schools and teachers have to focus on providing better online learning opportunity for students from poor families.
I see. So there's always room for improvement, widening access to students who may not necessarily have the facilities and tools to get them to online education. Well,
Yes.
do you see remote or virtual learning continuing beyond the virus? And if so, then how would that really change the role of teaching?
So during the coronavirus pandemic, some teachers and students would find online learning more interactive, student-centered, and even adaptive. So after the pandemic, some school system might return to the old model, but some others could turn this crisis into an opportunity to further develop a blended learning system, so mixing online with offline learning. So countries with prepared teachers and enabling ecosystem for innovation in education will be leading this transformation from offline classroom to blended learning after coronavirus.
Great. Then, as you said, it could actually be an opportunity to have better, more innovative learning systems. Well, actually, you are actually at the forefront of promoting high-touch and high-tech education, not just here in South Korea, but also around the world. Why is this approach needed at this point in time, and how could it overcome the current challenges that we face in education?
So one of the most promising blended learning model is I think high-touch, high-tech education. It's AI-assisted, adaptive online learning software and that can help students to have personal learning experience to remember and understand knowledge. And these high-tech tools can reduce the burden of teachers and enable them to provide individual high-touch attention to each student, focusing on active learning and higher order skills. So I hope that the whole field of edtech can enhance our humanness as every teacher is radically relieved from the burden of delivering content knowledge, and every student can enjoy wider access to human connections and interesting challenges. I expect that the right balance between high touch and high tech in education can ensure that every child is healthy, creative, and energized.
As Minister of Education, Science and Technology in Korea, you promoted equal learning and opportunities for all, as you just mentioned. You mentioned the importance of doing that. And you focused on providing quality courses for students who are falling behind in the classroom. Could remote and virtual learning through EdTech be a way of making sure education is more accessible and also personal for each student?
So private tutoring companies in Korea and worldwide are already selling AI-assisted adaptive online learning services, but children from poor families do not afford to buy them. There has been widening gap in education, not only in physical classroom, but in online learning. So if we could build enabling ecosystem for teachers to design and implement high-touch, high-tech learning, I think every child can have personalized learning experience, which policymakers and educators have long been dreaming of.
And well, South Korea, though, it may not have as many online teaching resources as other countries do. Then how can we turn this crisis right now, or chaotic transition into online learning, into a good opportunity?
So Korea is the first country to introduce a 5G network and with world-class smartphone producers. However, according to OECD PISA, Korea showed the lowest level of use of computer in classrooms, indicating very weak partnerships between edutech and ICT companies and schools. So strengthening public-private partnership in education is, I think, the key strategy of building innovation ecosystem in education.
So building a strong innovation ecosystem in education. Well, finally, just before we go, then would you say you're positive about the future of online education?
So as I said, if from this moment, we really can try how to turn this crisis into an opportunity to build up healthy ecosystem, innovation ecosystem for embracing education technologies and combining them with new cutting-edge pedagogies. Maybe Korea can lead this the transformation of education toward the more blended learning and more high-touch, high-tech learning.
Well, it's great to hear that Korea could possibly have this potential to turn crisis into opportunity and, as you said, use its many 5G infrastructures or online tools and things like that to actually build an education innovation system. I think we learned a lot of things today. Well, I'm afraid that's all we have time for today, but it's been a wonderful discussion. Thank you so much for joining the program, Dr. Lee Joo, Professor at KDI School of Public Policy and Management, and South Korea's former Minister of Education, Science and Technology.
Thank you very much.
This is also where we end the show today. Thank you for watching, and do join us again at the same time tomorrow for more global insights on issues making headlines. Till then, have a good one. Bye-bye.